Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 7 p.m. and time to begin our Planning Commission for this month. We will begin with an invocation led by Commissioner Davis, followed by a flag salute led by Commissioner Hatley. Would everybody please stand?
Bow your heads. Father, we come before you this evening. Pray that you will guide us with the business of the city of Yukon. We pray that you watch over all our officers, peace officers, soldiers, and everyone who serve. Lord, thank you for this day and the weather. Pray these things in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Chairman Taylor?
Here.
Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Hatley?
Here.
Commissioner Baker?
Here.
Commissioner Gerba?
Item 1 is approval of the minutes of the February 22nd special meeting. Does anybody have an addition or correction, or we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move we adopt the minutes as posted.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Call a roll, please.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Hatley?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Chairman Taylor?
Yes. Item 2 is the visitor section. If there's someone here that would like to address the commission about a non-agenda item, now would be the time to step forward and do so. Seeing none, we will proceed. Item 3, to hear a request by Sun Properties LLC / City of Yukon for a planned unit development rezone utilizing the R1 Single Family Residential District, R2 Combined Residential District, and C3 Restricted Commercial District located at 901 East Main Street of Yukon. A tract of land being a part of the southeast quarter of Section 16, Township 12 North, Range 5 West of the Indian Meridian, Canadian County, being particularly described as. We got a full page of meets and bounds that I'll be glad to read to you if you desire to hear meets and bounds. Otherwise, we can skip it and go forward. Does anybody want to hear me read it? Thank you. Do we have someone here for the rezone?
Good afternoon, Mark Grubbs, Grubbs Consulting on behalf of the applicant, 1819 South Morgan Road. What you have before you today is a PUD for the approximate 42-acre property. The PUD does consist of 4 different tracts. The tracts 1 and 2 are for a C3 use, and the difference between the 2 tracts on the C3 tract 1 is tract 2 adds the allowage for the storage facility, and that's why those are broken up. We did work with the city on that, and for the storage facility, I know they're very concerned regarding the appearance, and we agreed to brick facade, everything on the outside visible from the main street. The only exception we really asked for is we even agreed to the bricks on the inside was just for the area over the headers. That's a very substantial cost to add the brick across the headers there. So on the interior, that's the only adjustment that we had made. Track 3 was for R2. So we're progressing north. We're going from 1, 2. Track 3 was for a R2 use, and tract 4 was for an R1 use to buffer from the residential. So we progressively transitioned from the C3 to the R4. My client is an experienced developer and has developed a few mini storage facilities that are top-notch facilities, and he's also done residential development and brings a good product to the table. I have reviewed the staff report, and the staff is supportive of our application. I have spoken to staff regarding a portion of the staff report, which was number 5 on page 3. They specified the minimum lot areas were not consistent with the PUD application that was submitted, and staff is aware of that. The other things that that was section 5, and section 6 was the drive issues to along the south side of the project onto Main Street. My client wants as much access as possible there, looking at retail. Yes, sir.
Are we on the rezone or the PUD?
We're on the rezone.
Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry. I got those out of order.
Yeah,
Okay.
All you're asking for is to rezone
Okay.
the
You
property
should've
from
stopped me earlier.
C3, from property from C3 to split it up to combine C3, R1, and R2. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Does you all have any questions on the rezone?
Yeah. I'm confused now, he started out. So, you're wanting zoning for track 1, track 2, R2 on track 3, correct? And R1 on track 4.
That's correct.
I just wanted to understand. Got confused.
on track 3, R2, could you give us any idea of your just crystal ball speculation of what the mixed percentage would be between single family and duplex?
As of right now, it's speculated as 100%. 100% R2 duplex. Multiple.
Really?
So,
Please, nothing from the audience till you're given an opportunity. Before we go any farther, anybody that has something they want to say will have an opportunity if it's different than the person before you. We don't want people to come up and drag the meeting out saying the same thing over and over and over. We will listen to what you have to say, and then we'll move forward on it. I don't mean to insult anybody. Okay, so you want 50%, 100% duplexes in that R2 setting. That's
currently how it is.
what your real plan is for. Okay. That's not what my understanding was.
So that leaves a question, what are you doing with track 4?
Well, that's all single family, that's all R1.
Yeah,
And that backs to the neighborhood to the north.
okay. So you're putting single family in there?
Understand there? Well, let's get this rezone out of the way, because you can't go forward on the PUD discussing it unless we do the rezone. City staff recommends, Mitchell, is that correct, that we do this rezone in this configuration?
Yes, we have met several times, and we are in agreement with their request.
Okay, anybody on the audience want to come up and visit about the rezone, not the PUD, the rezoning of the property? Okay, do we have a motion from them?
I have a question. Currently, this entire track is there any of this that is not C3 right now?
Yes, so you actually have a copy of roughly what is zone R1 and C3. That
Okay, so
represents
that-
it.
that
That
is the
represent,
current- okay.
yes. And then this map represents what they're proposed to change the zoning to.
I didn't know how current that one was, but that.
Yes,
that's
it's,
current.
yes.
So really, the tracks 1 and 2 are almost the same right now. Please step forward, say your name, address, and ask your question.
Billy Patterson. We live in Rosewood at 4104 Pascali Court. I'm
Thank
the
you.
vice president of the HOA.
Okay?
Just to clarify some things, because we're new to this, my president here, Rhonda Dennis, we've got some concerns about the proposed neighborhood. Not so much their proposal, what they're putting there. Please excuse my, ignorance to say the least, but what is the PUD versus the zoning piece of it?
Okay, well, the zoning is just what you can do with the land.
Okay,
Okay, the PUD, Plan Unit Development, is where we will plan on what goes on the land under the correct zoning.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. We want to wait till we get to that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion on the rezone?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay,
In the case of the applicant for rezoning submitted by Sun Properties LLC and the City of Yukon, we have read the staff reports and received testimony at the public hearing. We find ourselves in agreement with the staff findings. I move to rezone. The rezone of the subject property be recommended for approval to the City Council.
do we have a second on that?
Second.
I do want to point out to everyone in the audience that we don't have the final say. All we can do is recommend to the city council. They are the final say on this type of projects. Any further discussions? Call a roll, please.
Chairman Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Hatley?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Item 4 now is a request by Sun Properties LLC, City of Yukon, for a planned unit development after the rezone, utilizing the R1 Single Family Residential District, the R2 Combined Residential District, and the C3 Residential Commercial District located at 901 East Main, a tract of land being a part of the southeast quarter of Section 16, Township 12 North, Range 5 west of the Indian Meridian, Canadian County. Once again, the metes and bounds haven't changed from a while ago, so I'm assuming nobody wants to hear that. Anybody? We'll proceed. Now, sir, you can talk about the project, please, the PUD, one of you.
Mark Grubbs, 1819 South Morgan Road, on behalf of the applicant. Briefly, go back again, 4 tracks in the PUD. Tracks 1 and 2 would be C3. The only difference between track 2 and track 1 is the additional use for the mini storage. Track 3 was the R2, and track 4 was the R1. So we're transitioning back to the residential. We have reviewed the staff report, and staff is in agreement with our proposal. I had made the comments that Section 5 of the staff report did not. There were discrepancies between that and the submitted PUD, and that also on Section 6, staff recommended that there only be 2 allowed access points onto Main Street. Our original request was for 4. And the reason for the request is we're looking at multiple retail pad sites on that, as well as a retail strip center there. So restaurant pad sites out in front, and then additional commercial use in the back. And there's an existing Walmart drive to the east of this site, and then because of the median breaks, the staff has recommended the separation of, I believe, 500 feet between the drives.
I believe that's code.
Right. But the median break that's west of the Walmart entrance is not 500 feet from the Walmart entrance, and it'd be a good spot for traffic to be able to enter and exit the site. Also, that site has 1,000 feet. I've further discussed the frontage of the site has 1,000 feet. I further discussed this with my client, and he has agreed to, and instead of 4, to do the request for 3 driveways there.
Well, it's my understanding that Walmart driveway would count as one, wouldn't it, Mitchell?
That's
Then
the
we
way
would
we
have-
was looking at it. Yes.
And then just one other.
No, you'd have 2 others. For
We
a total
would
of
have
3.
2 others. So a total of 3 on Main Street.
That's correct.
But
Okay.
but the median break that's west of the Walmart entrance is only approximately 280 feet west of the Walmart entrance. That would not meet that 500 feet. So that's for consideration there. Staff was in agreement with our parking, and we agreed to I've explained the personal storage request on the exterior, as far as we would completely brick all the columns and all the exterior on anything that is adjacent to or can be seen by Main Street. And on the interior, the only thing that we're asking not be bricked is the headers above the doors. And then as far as the landscape plans, we would be submitting those at the building permit stage and at the final plat stage, so that we better understand the areas we're working with and where the landscaping that we would be doing on each one of those sites. Otherwise, we agree with the staff report, and as I stated, staff supports our application, and we would ask for your approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, your site screening on the west side between the church and this property would be some type of a site screen trees, is that correct?
Yes, he's agreed to loblolly pines on 10-foot centers.
10-foot centers?
Yeah.
And on the north side of the C3, would that be a wood fence between that and the properties?
We haven't specified that. I mean, the residential aspect would have the wood fence along their backyard, but the storage use would also have additional security fence inside of that.
How tall would that fence be?
6 feet.
You know, commercial would have to pay to keep those up, the wood fence.
Yeah, I don't see that being an issue.
Even if they put that security fence between them?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's my understanding, is that correct, Mitchell?
Well, normally they share a common fence, and the commercial property abutting is responsible for the maintenance of that site screening or security fence. So we won't let them have 2 fences back to back. So it has to be one shared.
The problem with the storage facility, they say this is secure, and a wood fence is just not that secure. So
Well, that's the reason I asked you.
Yeah.
What type of fence you're gonna have.
you wouldn't allow 2 fences there, Mitchell?
No,
Sorry.
because of the problems between the 2 fences and trash and the collection of grass and stuff becoming a fire
It would
hazard.
just be hard to get stuff out from in between them.
Yeah, so-
It'd just be a mess.
Back on the issue number 5, you said there was an issue with number 5, item number 5.
If you're looking at the R2 zoning portion, the PUD actually specified 6,600 square foot lots, 60 foot wide, and a 10-foot rear setback.
But the current ordinance is 10,080, and so you're not saying that this isn't the ordinance, just that the PUD will be different, is different than this?
The PUD is specified different than that, yes.
So you're going to put a duplex on a 60-foot front?
60.
Really? I mean, I'm a realtor, and I just, to have 2 double-car garages and a duplex on a 60-foot lot? I think
We designed quite a few of these neighborhoods, and that seems to be pretty common.
so you're not going to have any mixed use, have R1s in there too?
As of right now, it's not speculated, so.
I see a lot of pictures here of the houses you were planning on building. I don't see one of the duplex. Is there? Did I just not see it?
Mr. Grubbs, I think one of the things that he's kind of talking about, I thought the R2 was going to have a mixture of single family and multifamily, or duplexes in there, originally when we talked. You need to step up.
Yeah. Sorry.
John Gravitt, 1300 North Air Depot, Edmond, Oklahoma. We did talk about it in that meeting, but now doing the discussions of it and the economics of it, that's why we're looking for all of the duplex lots there.
So how large are these duplexes square footage wise?
A side would be 12 to 1400 square feet, total 22 to 2800 square feet, pretty
Single
small.
Story? Single story?
Single story,
And a double-car garage?
double car garage. We have plans, we built them before, they're pretty common.
What do you sell them for? How much?
We have a range that we provided to the HOA. I'll give that to you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, that's okay. Sometimes my vision isn't the best. I put a range of 2,200 to 3,200 total square feet for the duplexes, figuring some might be large. The selling range for a single unit of 2 sides would be 285,000 to 400,000. These single-family homes, I'm thinking the range is 1,500 square feet to 2,100 square feet. That's typically what we build. That range is 195,000 to 270,000. So we're about $130 a foot.
No, I haven't counted the lots in there, but in the R2, how many lots, how many duplexes would there be?
74 from my memory, sir. 72.
72 buildings.
Yes, sir.
And on the R1s, how many buildings were those?
27. A total of 27 and a total of 99 structures in there.
Any other questions?
Well, that wouldn't leave much room for yard at all, right? Is that what we're looking at? Because it's going to be that many square feet. Okay,
You have
it's a little deeper. Yeah.
So the R1s will be also 110 feet deep
129 feet deep, I believe, sir.
on the R1s?
Yes, sir. And really the interest on the duplexes is, there's kind of a shift in the marketplace. They're going away from these bigger homes. People are wanting small, maintenance-free, easy homes. I don't want to call it a senior living or active community, but that's what people are wanting. It is just a real small place. They want to downsize, and we see a big demand for that.
You plan for this unit, these to have an HOA
Absolutely.
for this?
Yes. It'll be
project?
one single HOA for the entire project. Yes. We are planning in the little panhandle section behind the church to put a walking trail. It's about a quarter of a mile of a paved walking trail. We're going to be putting a pool, a clubhouse, some upscale amenities in there.
Okay. All right.
And
Open
you're
it.
gonna, excuse me.
Go ahead.
But you are gonna absolutely have the 5-foot setback off the lot line.
Side setback. Side setback, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And each one of these housing units there'll be 2 drives off of Mustang Road. Correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And there,
Yukon Parkway.
would there, I'm sorry. And will there be like a street through in the middle of the block and one long block? Or are you gonna have a stop sign in there?
We took the city's recommendation and added a center north-south street. I'd have to look at the plat. I don't believe there's a stop sign, but we added that center street per the city's suggestion.
Yeah. Okay,
So that's track 3.
no,
Track 3 and
Three
track
and
4.
3 and 4.
3 and 4 together. Okay, well, now that's making a little more sense.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I didn't see how they were gonna keep those separate.
Okay, I'll open it up. If anybody has some concerns or they want to get questions answered, please step to the microphone and say your name and address, please.
I'm Rhonda Dennis.
Can you pull that down where the people can hear you? Thank you.
I'm Rhonda Dennis, 817 T Rose Drive. I'm the president of the Rosewood HOA.
All righty.
You've already met Billy, our VP. I have some information. I'll make it as brief as possible. Firstly, if you don't mind, I would like everyone from Rosewood to please stand for a moment. Just so we see who else here. Thank you, guys. Okay, so I have 3 top concerns. Number 1 is traffic. To give you some quick background information, our main through streets are T Rose and Rambling Rose. That connects Yukon Parkway to Briarwood. Those streets right now are completely overloaded with traffic. Most significantly on school days with people taking their kids to school and back from school from Ranchwood Elementary. The traffic is such that people that live on T Rose and Rambling Rose, like myself, during those times of day, you will have to sit in your driveway for 3, 5, 7 minutes before you can back out. We do have a stop sign between T Rose and Rambling Rose. It's kind of a curve. I can sit at my home and watch, and probably 1 to 2 out of 10 stop at the stop sign. We've had brick mailboxes at the front of our neighborhood, Yukon Parkway, and at the corner where T Rose and Rambling Rose connect, destroyed because people drive too fast and they don't slow down. They don't stop at the stop signs. So this leads to our main concern, which is the speeding. The speeding on T Rose. T Rose is a straight shot for any of you that have ever driven through there. We've worked with the Yukon Police Department. They've sent out officers, sit in driveways, cul-de-sacs, pull people over, write tickets left and right. We've used the speed trailer multiple times, and it works for about a week, 2 weeks. We've asked the city to be able to put in speed bumps, which we can't. We've asked about gating the community off, which we can't. We have asked about putting in more stop signs, and I was told the protocol for that, so that's under consideration. We, as an HOA, have resorted to things like buying signs that we set out in our driveways that say slow down. We've even resorted to shouting at people, unfortunately. One of the officers that sat out on T Rose gave several tickets for people doing in excess of 50 to 60 miles an hour. So this is a huge concern for our homeowners. And I will go out on a limb and say it is a matter of time before a child is hit by a car, hurt, or killed because of the speeding. So saying all that leads to my point being that, well, my numbers here don't add up anymore, because when we met with Mr. Gravitt and his folks, we were told they were going to build 74 duplexes and 25 single-family homes, which now those numbers have turned a little bit, which it's not a big deal, but my numbers won't add up. So with 25 single-family homes and 74 duplexes, that's 148 homes, basically. So you add, say even half of those people have elementary age school, you're adding another 100, 125 people driving their kids to school. The proposed neighborhood has no outlet to 66, which you guys were just discussing. The only outlets are onto Mustang Road, or Yukon Parkway. So all they're going to have to do is come out, make a quick left, and speed up Rosewood and Rambling Rose like everyone else does. So our traffic is going to expound quite a bit. So that's our very serious concern. Our solution, our proposed solution, is for them to have an outlet onto 66, which I'm not even going to stand here and begin to act like I understand, what you needs, the ordinances and all that about the exits and entrances. We are proposing that they add an additional outlet or a street from their neighborhood, from the back of their, I can show you what I'm talking about, if you don't mind. I'm sorry. So we're asking, we've taken the liberty of making a little bit of a drawing.
Mr. Chairman, we need to make sure that we got a copy of that for the records once they.
Right.
Those are for y'all. There's two
Okay.
copies of the drawing, but the plan,
Okay.
the pictures are for others. Do you mind if I continue, or should
Go
I
right ahead.
wait?
Go ahead.
Okay. The second major concern is the placement of the swimming pool and the playground area. This area would literally be feet, 20, 30, 40 feet from several of our homeowners' back patios, the homeowners on Monticello and Calliope. There's no doubt that this is going to create issues with noise, light glare, maybe even safety issues. And while this affects a minority of our homeowners, the impact on those homeowners is greater than, dare I say, anything else. We've consulted two real estate agents, one of which is here with us tonight, and they've both advised us that while this might not impact their property value, it will hugely impact their ability to resell their homes. Our solution is a redesigned layout where the community pool and playground be, which you can see on those drawings. Perhaps maybe placing it at the back of where their designed storage units are right now, where it backs up to their properties and not ours. We've taken the liberty of drawing that out as well. And again, not trying to say I'm any kind of an architect, design planner. We're just grasping at straws for ideas. Our third point is the impact on our property values. We have been told that they're unable to give us any determination on property value impact from renters. But there's reports, there's statistics out there that the more renters in your area lowers your property value. The storage units is also a point of impact for us where, you know, if one of the realtors, and you may be able to discredit me or credit this, I don't know. The neighborhoods that have storage facilities very close, they're more difficult to resell and more difficult to sell. In my mind, that impacts property value for our neighborhood. We understand that the city of Yukon has a great desire to make this work, the rezoning, selling the property, and we don't want to stand in the way of that. But we are asking that you please help us mitigate the problems and the conflicts that it's going to create to our neighborhood. We bought these properties in good faith that the city of Yukon was not going to harm our property value. We're just asking for consideration that you take that into making in your decision. We appreciate your time, appreciate you listening, and while we do have these concerns, we are most happy to work with the city of Yukon, Mr. Gravitt's company. We just will be happy to do what we can do if we can all work together.
Thank you.
I think that's it. Do you have any
You're the-
questions for us?
Well, no, but on all of the ones that I've been associated with, you're the first one that's come up with actually having some alternative plan for folks you can just stand up. We don't want it.
My motto is always, if you're not a part of you can be part of the problem or you can be part of the solution. So
Now, you have met with the developer?
We
and
have.
Presented any of this stuff to them?
we didn't know any of it until that meeting. So these are things that we found out that night, and that was just a week ago today.
Yeah, but I mean, your projects here, have you presented?
No, sir, have not. But we'd be more than happy to talk. Well, and we touched on them in the meeting, but I didn't have anything by hand to present. We talked about the outlet to 66, and he said that that wasn't something that he really wanted to do. The traffic we discussed at length, you know, and then the impact on property value we discussed, and there just wasn't any great.
Meeting of the mind?
Yeah, thank you, exactly.
So, you know, Billy Patterson at 4104 Pascali. We talked about it as well. Sunday mornings, anybody that's gone down Yukon Parkway to
Yes.
66, where Life Church gets in and out from 8 o'clock in the morning until well after 2, it's very difficult to get in and out of there. There's people coming down the road, turning around in places they're not supposed to turn around.
They
And it-
U-turn in our
yeah.
entrance.
That right there kind of gave us a basis for the traffic issues that we could be concerned with. And you add another 175 homes on top of that, and like I said, with only 2 outlets, it's a big concern of us in the neighborhood.
Well, and that church has, I don't think they're police officers, but they're city-approved people that block traffic on Yukon Parkway, so their church members can get out. I personally, I can't speak for anyone else, I personally have sat to get out of my neighborhood up to 66 in Yukon Parkway for 20 minutes. So, like Billy is saying, having another 200 homes where their outlets between us and 66, it's going to create more issues. In our minds,
Okay,
in our opinions.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Billy.
Well, I certainly understand the traffic part of it. I live in Parkland, and at Christmas time, you don't turn left out of,
Can't leave the
and,
neighborhood.
and most days at the busy times, school times, and evening quitting time, you don't turn left out of there either. I understand and the frustration. Yukon is growing, and I guess there's traffic issues everywhere. Yes, sir?
Good evening. Philip Sproul, 4001 Monticello Court on Rosewood Edition also. you guys have also got a couple pictures up there of my backyard. And I think there's a couple pictures up there. You guys see them?
I
Okay.
think so. You're at the back of that panhandle.
Correct.
Is that you? Okay.
Yes. My house is going to be directly affected by the amenities of this pool, along with my neighbor Mike right here, and along with my other couple neighbors on to the east of us. The swim pool and the proposed 12 parking lots is directly about from me to you. Is about how far? About 15 yards. It's about a Baker Mayfield pass to First Down and Son.
Who?
But what I'm asking is that there is no easement between my fence and the proposed parking lots or the swim pool. There's no easement at all, from what I understand. I built my home 11 years ago to retire there. And so I'm not trying to tell you guys a sad story or anything like that, but I built my home there to retire in that house. And now I knew there was going to be development. We all knew there was going to be development. Sooner or later, going to be development out there in that field. But to have a swim pool and a playground and amenities within, like if this is my kids, I'm basically going to reach over and be looking at the children's swim pools down there. They're looking at me, my backyard, and my backyard. For 20, 30 years. I'm sorry. For 20, 30 years, these gentlemen will come and go and be on down the road. And I'm going to have people coming in every single day back there to go swimming, which is fine. I'm not against swimming. I'm not against having a good time. But please, I like to work with these. I think I talked with you on the phone the other day. Let's look at maybe building something else or moving it. I'm not against building something back there or putting something back there. But I would like to, if I could ask a show of hands of realtors or anybody like that, if you were going to sell my house and you took customers in to see my house, it's a very nice house, beautiful home. You walked out into the backyard, and I actually have a swimming pool in my backyard. I do. But you look, and this 1 foot from your property line, 15 yards from my bedroom window, which you see in that picture right there, that picture is my bedroom window, 15 yards, and there's a neighborhood swim pool for hundreds of kids all day long. That's all I've got to say. So please, I'd like to work with you guys. I hope you take that in consideration when you're looking at this. I really do. And so does my other folks in the neighborhood there. Thank you. Thank you. It's good talking with you.
Hi, I'm Mike Swisher, 4000 Monticello Court. I'm Philip's neighbor in the swimming pool and playground and the little panhandle thing. It's behind my fence too. My wife and I have 2 dogs who are part of our family. I understand if a neighborhood was going to be built there would be a responsible homeowner to share the fence with. Now we're faced with who knows what, loitering, people not obeying the rules, pull our fence down, our dogs get out. They're just like our kids. It's really concerning to us. Not to mention, it's just too close for comfort, and it's a big concern of ours. And the traffic through our neighborhood, our security, all that. So I wanted to put that, it's a real concern for us. Thanks.
How big a pool are y'all planning to put back there?
What's the capacity that you're going to allow?
Mr. Chairman, have him stand on the mic, please.
John Gravitt, 1300 North Air Depot. These were some conceptual designs. We haven't worked it out. I've got a bid from a pool company that did another sports pool. I want to say the capacity's 50 and below. I don't quote me on that, but I think that's a number that came out. I want to say the pool was 20 by 25. I'm open to looking at locations with these adjoining homeowners that we could maybe shield and put it there. I'm open to that. But the difficulty of a gentleman who has a pool in his backyard and then saying, I can't put a pool in my property, that's tough. I'm open to sit down and strategically look at placement, but if we could keep the accuracy of the statements going, I think that'd be helpful.
Well, if I understood him right, he's concerned about the parking in there also.
Absolutely.
You ever consider not putting a pool in? I mean,
You know-
it'd save you a bunch of money.
It would. I think, what we're looking at is a upscale neighborhood, and I think for some of the people, I think that's an amenity that is desired. I think if you see a lot of the newer neighborhoods, they're going in phase one and they're doing a lot of amenities like this right off the bat. And so this, I think, is almost standard now with new developments that you see. If you took the pool off the table, you have a very awkward piece of land left. It's 70 by 684. You can't put houses in there. You maybe put a walking trail or something like that, but it's a very awkward piece of property to work with. We tried to design it the best we could, but walking trails around that, it's almost a quarter of miles of walking trails.
Yeah, I agree. I wondered what you guys were going to do with this piece when it came before us the last time. So, I mean, you've made a pretty good use of that piece. But is there just nowhere else to put the pool, I would imagine, without taking away some duplexes? So, is that what you had all thought about also? Or what was the impact on putting it directly in the middle of the neighborhood you're putting in? I mean, was
It's
that
just
brought up?
It was. We looked at it. You just see that panhandle, and we're like, well, what are we going to do with that?
Do you think about selling it to the affected homeowners?
I'm open to it. We have not talked to them about it.
I know that's what they did on 10th Street when they were putting in the new off-ramps and stuff.
Sure.
In the Parkland neighborhood, there was a line of houses there, or land that was designed for duplexes, and then when the state come in and cut the road wider, there wasn't enough depth, so they just sold the land to each of the affected homeowners, and they
Yeah.
loved it.
We're open to that for sure.
I can't speak for those homeowners, but the couple that are here right now seem to be open to that idea. I just want to quickly, and I'm not trying to be difficult or rude, but equating someone having a swimming pool in their backyard with 2 teenagers versus a community pool that has access for 150 homes is not the same thing, not even close.
Now, your HOA would set time limits and so forth on that, correct?
Excuse me, yes, the HOA would. The one that we ran before, it's very specific, no alcohol, no open containers, hours of operation. We actually have an adult day where no kids are in the pool, and stuff like that. So it's a very, very well-run pool.
Ms. Dennis,
Yes,
a while ago you said that you weren't allowed to gate your neighborhood.
correct.
And
Mitchell can tell you more.
It's probably fire.
You
Basi-
can write a check and buy the streets and gate your neighborhood, right? But they're not
No.
prohibited from having you gate your neighborhood.
The cost of buying the street and
Oh,
the storm drain from the city is very
I know
expensive
that for a fact.
because it's market value as well as appraised value. So
No,
we usually advise them that it's not possible because of the cost.
Oh, I
It's
wasn't
inhibiting.
advised that it was possible with the cost. Even if it was, we couldn't do it. I mean, we're 98 homes.
so it's just a financial impossibility, not against the law impossibility.
It's a financial, but the problem is when we look at these layouts of these subdivisions and neighborhoods, we try to get circulation for police and fire and waste services. And when you mess with the way that we looked at the circulation through these neighborhoods, it kind of messes things up when you come up against a gate when it's not planned or it's not removed from.
I know there was another neighborhood that wanted to do that, and over just east of Parkland, and Stone Mill.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I know exactly. Mitchell, has there been any, to get something that's kind of comparable, we just did the water park there at Sunrise. Has there been any issues brought up with the noise from that to the neighborhood that it backs up to?
No, but there's distance there, and then
Yeah.
there's actually some green belt kind of material in there that kind of breaks that noise up.
Okay.
So,
That's the difference for us. There's, like Philip said, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
and that's
You know,
something.
it's a straight shot.
Well, I just wondered
that
if
goes
that,
back
if there was
towards-
issues with that one, with that large buffer, then I can certainly see a problem.
Things they can look at is some kind of green shrubbery that would be between the pool and those neighbors, and get the pool as far away from those houses as they could too. There's things they can do.
Well,
Seems
and
that-
I'll take the liberty of discussing, one of our homeowners, Mr. Sproul, did an extensive amount of research on what millennial homeowners are looking for, because it was proposed to us that the duplexes are what millennials are looking for. The number one thing that millennials are looking for is a dog park. They have dogs, most of them don't have children quite yet, so that's another idea that we're floating out there. Make that area the walking trails and a dog park rather than a pool and a playground. I understand the need for that. I would have loved to have found a neighborhood that had a community pool and a playground. And we don't want you to not have that. We just don't want you to have that 15 yards from our folks' back porch.
Okay, we about talked this to death. One other thing, this arterial street going to 66 from your addition, did you look into that when you were designing this, or talk with the city about that, or?
No, you go ahead and address it.
Mark Grubbs, 1819 South Morgan Road. Actually, in coordination with staff, after our submittal of our PUD, we were requested not to connect the commercial to the residential.
I'm not wanting to, I said a street running down beside the commercial to the 66 exit.
But the way that kind of how we have it configured now, if you ran a street down there would have to be connection to the commercial connecting to it as well.
One of the things that staff was concerned about is, if you look at this aerial, there wasn't a good clean place to bring the neighborhood to 66 for a safe crossing, because they'll have to go east and westbound. So that's one of the things we sent them back to Yukon Parkway with the understanding they go to the traffic control device. And eventually Yukon Parkway will be improved. Eventually.
There's no time frame on that?
There's no time frame on it, but each neighborhood, as they develop, they're required to put money aside for the improvement of the road. And when we reach the amount that we need to improve it, through other funds that we get through ACOG, we'd widen the street and make it a safer street. But there's a lot of things that would have to be addressed on this street all the way to Wagner Road.
Well,
Where's the other drive on 66? Where are you wanting those? I know there's one at the break, and then there's one, you wanted another one further west.
This is just conceptual, but right now we're looking at 3 retail restaurant pad sites out there. Then we have retail shopping, and then that's just a concept of the storage at this time. But we have one drive here. We had another drive here, but this is the Walmart drive, so that drive could easily go away, and we're looking at circulation in here, but that's the only crossing point that we would have access to there along our frontage.
And Mitchell, you're not wanting that drive there at the curb break? Is that what the staff has said?
No, normally our ordinance, remember, requires a minimum spacing of 500 foot. We're trying to stay with that. You know, that one may have to be adjusted because there's a current crossing there, but we have not reviewed an actual layout of any proposed actual construction of buildings there. But we try to limit our drives to keep from a Garth Brooks thing, and try to use circulation through the parking lots between the businesses if we can. Some kind of cross-access agreement.
And no way to add more breaks in the median, right?
No.
Okay.
It's my understanding the one we got for the fire department was,
I know.
it was kind of used after the fact. As you well know, the speed limit here is about 45 miles an hour too, so that's one of the things that we want to keep those spacings as far as possible as we can. Now, we may have to adjust, but we need something to look at before we can adjust it.
I just see right now a lot of people making a U-turn there at the break to come back to the other drive. Is that right? Okay.
Well, yes, sir.
Jason Clark, 1008 T Rose Drive. Couple things. My main concern of what we rent, my property right now backs up to the main open space in the 42 acres. When Walmart went in, we had a very bad problem, when we still have, with debris, which I think they made an agreement with the city that they would keep that clean. We've called the city 4 or 5 times. We've dealt with Walmart. And this is leading to what we're concerned about. The same problem here is during construction. I spent almost $1,000 having my pool redone because of construction. My neighbor spent $1,500 having his pool redone because of construction, which they gave us guarantee would not happen. When they did their burn, they dug the giant pit. I don't know if anybody remembers seeing it out there right across from the police department. Well, what they did is they made a giant funnel for during the summer when the wind came up. It was blowing flames, and literally my backyard was covered a ½ an inch deep in ash from the burn. So was my neighbor. His pool had to have it drained, relined, and redone because of it. Our homes are continuously covered. Anybody who fronts that property are covered in trash constantly. Nobody will do anything about it. So what we're concerned is the damage from construction. They're planning on building right up to the back of our homes. Most of us have chain link fence because we're backed onto that, on that land right now. So we're talking about them building fences again. So are they going to put up a fence? You said you can't have double fences. So on the back of this property, does that mean they're going to use our fences that we have now for the back of the new homes?
We try not to have dead fences because, like I said, we try to get adjoining homeowners to work together.
Right.
Because if you get what we call a dead fence or space in between them, you get trash in there or brush growing or trees growing. It becomes a fire hazard, and that's one thing that we try to eliminate.
So he's asking a question, will they take his chain link fence down and put up a wood fence? That's what his question is.
See, I had to pay to put my fence up, so are they going to pay to put up a new fence to replace it? Because we will have to have a new fence.
Correct.
That's one of the things that we'll need to work out with the builder is how we're going to handle those issues.
And that'll be a lot of homeowners. Everybody that backs up against that property, we're talking all new fences.
Yeah, I can see his point. I mean, absolutely. We don't want double fences.
We don't want double fences.
We do not want double fence. So, only thing there's no answer to it. You can either tie a wood fence onto a chain link fence.
Well, you can't tie to an existing fence.
But that's not good.
Yes.
You know? I mean, he could do it on his fence.
And then my second thing is when we were talking about access, you would think by numbers it'd be cheaper for the city of Yukon when we were talking about a north-south access to the property. It'd be cheaper for the city of Yukon to put in another turn onto 66 than it would be to widen to 4 lanes on Yukon Parkway.
Another turn to 60.
They were talking about that they couldn't make that road because there's not an access to get across to the eastbound lanes of 66.
No, we said we didn't feel comfortable with that, with the speed and stuff, and there wasn't a straight crossing.
Right.
Because the best place would be all the way to the west.
Right, but right now, if you want to leave our addition, the only way to get to anywhere in town is to make a right-hand turn on Yukon Parkway.
Correct.
We're limited to one direction.
Correct.
We have another addition between us with all of their traffic. We're limited to taking 3 miles to go all the way around, which takes you almost down to downtown Yukon.
Well, I think at some point you can turn left out of your addition. I I have to gun my car out of mine addition too.
No, I'm talking about the backed up traffic, because we have another new church that's going in right across the street from the opening to our addition. We're gonna have that traffic on Sundays. So we'll have 3 churches on the east side of the road, plus the traffic when everybody shops on Sunday at Walmart. Trying to get out of our addition is gonna be ridiculous.
It is.
And there's already traffic, and one of my concerns that I've been caught in is when you're headed northbound across 66, everybody starts turning into Walmart, you get trapped in the center of 66 during the light.
Yeah, if you're in the.
And you're
left-hand
stuck in
lane.
traffic. And like you said, you'd have to widen the lane, but when that's gonna happen, you're talking a hell of a lot of traffic and somebody's gonna get hurt. And it's either somebody leaving the church or somebody stuck out in the middle of an intersection. It just seems like it's a pretty good hazard to me until we come up with a reasonable solution. Rushing into this just seems kind of dangerous. So, that's it. Thank you.
You have a point, sir.
Yes, John Gravitt. Regarding the fencing, what we typically did is put it in our builder agreements. Anybody that I let build, we require that by the time they get their final building permit, that they put a new fence up. So any of these people that have a chain link fence, we will have an agreement with whoever is put into place in there to put a new stockade fence up. It worked out great, because fencing is an issue. We see it all the time. And we've put that in place. We did 4 phases in Timber Creek Estates. It worked out great. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, we've been at this for almost an hour. I'm ready to cut off conversation on it. I think you've brought up some great points. I would hope that, again, that y'all would meet again, maybe about selling that property or moving the pool. Maybe staff could get with everybody about putting the pool as far away from these gentlemen's property as possible. I know I have a pool in my backyard, and my neighbors have pools, and so when they have parties, I understand exactly what he's talking about, and if it was a party all day long, I would get tired of it, certainly. I don't know, the progress is always hard, especially in a town like Yukon, which has had so much green space or a non-developed area, and now these leftover little islands of development of developable land is finally coming to fruition. The other points to be made before I call for a motion? Okay. I'll accept a motion if someone would care to read one.
I'll read it. In the case of the application for a PUD submitted by Sun Properties LLC, we have read the staff report and received testimony at the public hearing. We find ourselves in agreement with staff findings. I move that PUD of Yukon Crossings Phase 2 be recommended for approval to the City Council with the following additional conditions. The proposed PUD overlay is approved contingent upon the rezoning application being approved by City Council. Staff requested revisions noted as item 10 shall be incorporated into the document prior to the document being forwarded for City Council consideration. The following additional revisions requested at this Planning Commission shall be incorporated into the PUD document as discussed as part of items 6 through 8. So I need to read that.
And then item 4. At the bottom.
Oh, well, okay. Number 4, 2 landscape plans for the commercial property and 1 for the residential property shall be prepared and reviewed prior to issuance of any development permits for the subject property. Said plans shall be prepared in accordance with directions listed in item 9 of this report.
Do we have a second? We have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Once again, you'll have to go through all of this with the City Council. Once again. And your arguments were well thought out. And if there was something we could do about getting that road widened right now, it'd be great. Maybe this will help. Call the roll, Kathy.
Discussion.
Oh, I'm
Chair,
sorry,
discussion.
any further discussion?
I have a question. One of the issues discussed was the number of drives. Was there a recommendation from the commission on that?
I thought it was in the PUD, or in this agreement here, there's 2 drives to be on Yukon Parkway and a total of 3 on Yukon, on 66 Highway. Is that not in there?
Existing plus 2.
The existing drive plus 2 is in here.
It's in the PUD. It was not initially discussed prior to this, so I just wanted to make sure that that's what you were agreeing to.
Well, that's what was my understanding. I thought it was in here.
It was in your comments, and yes, that's, we want to make sure that we may be.
Want
Go
to make
ahead.
sure that that's in there.
Just go ahead and add it to your conditional comments.
Okay, you want to add that to your
Yeah,
motion?
I'll add it as 3,
Yes.
letter
3A.
A, and that there will be 2 additional. Is that right? Okay,
On 66.
that's where I thought we were at. So 2 additional drives on Route 66,
And 2 on Yukon.
and right, and 2 on Yukon Parkway. Yes, we're in that
Can we
further discussion.
can we specify that the drive west of Walmart doesn't have to meet the 500-foot? We're requesting the 2 additional. We asked for 4, city recommended 2 additional, and we're okay with that, but can we address the distance separation from the Walmart drive because of that median break?
That would be, I think that would be a function that you'd work out with city staff.
I think that's one of the things, but we probably ought to reaffirm that at the city council level so they can review that too.
So
Because
the
that's
city-
one of the appeals that they're trying to appeal anyway. So,
Okay.
So, would you second that? Oh, Bill, you gonna second his amendment there?
Wait, is Mitchell saying that we need to say where that east
well,
drive would be?
anything that on the drives and the driveway spacing would have to come back as a appeal with a plan that they're trying to lay out. But one of the things, they might be able to do a plan and present it to the council for their review and remarks.
That's fine. That's fine with us. Thank you.
Fine with me. I mean, they're going to have to come back to put, everything else in, so.
So does everybody understand the motion and the second? Up here, the voting people.
Yep. Are we fine with that, Judge?
When's the city council meeting?
It'd be next Tuesday, which would be the 20th.
Only
Maybe
reason I-
between now and then that you two could still get together and talk some more. You've started out a good conversation. Everybody seems to be willing to talk, and that would be a good opportunity.
I'm sorry, one more thing. You're saying it's going to be on the 20th. I wasn't aware of that. Mitchell, is there any way that we can move that to the next council date? Because I'm out of town and so is,
Okay.
They meet every 2 weeks. So that would be into April, correct?
That's why I asked that.
Yes, it'd be April 3rd. If you move it to April, it'd be April 3rd.
April the 3rd would be the next opportunity.
Is that better?
That gives everybody time to
I think
work
it's
on it.
probably better for everybody.
But April 3rd is good?
All right, we have a motion and a second. We've
More
had
discussion.
any other discussion?
This is my ward, and I would be remiss if I didn't make a couple of comments.
Okay.
Plan unit development, to me, should be much more creative. You can do that subdivision on a plat, right? without a PUD. There's no creativity in that. It's all tracked out. I know land is expensive, and these people up here have developed. I think they deserve a little more consideration than tract housing. So that's as far as I'm gonna go with my comments right now.
Well, land purchases are talking about breaking off that panhandle and selling it. Those are complicated things to, replat that. But since the meeting isn't till April 3rd, I do hope that there's a chance for everybody to get together and I know on your end, it's convincing your HOA. I'm in an HOA, and getting a $2 raise in HOA fees is hard enough. But give you time to talk to people and give them a reasonable estimate about what you're really talking about, because that is, it's only 80 feet wide, but it is long. So it's, I think it's about 44,000 square feet of property. So it's a chunk of property that probably 90% of the people in this town think it's part of the Nazarene Church, and always thought that. So, and it's not. So hopefully between now and April 3rd, there's some time for to get together and because it is going to be a complicated issue.
Also, your council members' phone numbers are available. And I know when I was on city council, having a letter, people take time to write me a letter or take time to call me, really influenced a lot of my thinking on it, because I lived in Ward 2, and this is in Ward 4. So if you take the time to let your council member, not him, but the mayor, McCarron, he lives in that neighborhood up there, let him know what you think. I know he'll love me for that.
We'll tell him you sent it.
Okay.
Well, people do think that nobody calls us, but let me tell you, when you have the world's largest water park built behind your neighborhood, people call us. So don't be bashful about writing a letter.
Yeah. And it really, it's, usually we sit up here a month after month and we have nobody in our meetings. But it's good to hear good conversation and good debate on stuff. Now, it may not turn out the way you want it, but you've said your piece, and you can approach it on the next level also. And like I said, you had a very logical, well thought out answer. Okay, any other comments? Call the roll, please.
Chairman Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
No.
Commissioner Hatley?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Okay, that item passes. We're ready. You folks are welcome to stay. We have a couple other items to go. If you'd like to leave, you can go.
Thanks, guys.
Item 5.
Don't thank me. You got a long road to hoe.
Hey, and buying that property is great. You brought up about the Olympic intent. That was super to be able to buy that.
Item 5 is to hear a request by Bill Collins on behalf of J.F. Ferguson Plaza Shops for a PUD located at 915 Cornwell, Yukon, Oklahoma, as a part of Block C, Yukon Hills Edition, Second Edition, in addition to Yukon, Canadian County, Oklahoma, more particularly described as meets and bounds, but it is at 915 Cornwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Bill Collins. Mr. Ferguson is here with me. He's the gentleman sitting next to me. We've been through this application repeatedly with staff, and I just talked to Cindy, it seemed like about 3 or 4 hours ago, hammering out some issues that we've resolved. And we've resolved all of them but one. In our mind, that's a big one, and that's the parking issue. When this center was built, I think the initial plans had, they submitted that showed 240 parking spaces. Obviously, it's been cut down and some revisions were made, but this center was built in 1986. There's a need for parking. Cindy wants to cut us down to 137 parkable spaces. We need 163 because at one space for each 200 square feet of building, there's 32,600 feet. That's the number that's come up with. There's a loan on the property. We don't want to jeopardize Mr. Ferguson or the property by a claim of the lender that its security has been impaired. And I think that could be a very real risk, because if there's not enough places to park for the customers and for the employees and the tenants, that's going to be a real issue as to the value of the property and hence the value of the lender's security. This thing's been there since 1986. The parking spaces are there. It has not been an issue one iota. Garbage trucks historically go to the rear of the property to pick up waste from the 10 or so trash receptacles. There was a fire there 6 years ago. Fire trucks got behind the building. Not an issue. So I don't know why there's going to be an issue now when there wasn't in 1986, and there wasn't in 2012, and there wasn't every day that trash is picked up. So we've agreed on everything else.
So where do you propose to find the extra parking spaces?
Well, there are 27 in the rear, and that's the ones that she does not want us to include in the total number of parking spaces. And that's going to be under the terms of the lease. They have to, those rear parking spaces have to be used by the tenants and their employees.
Well, currently you can parallel park back there, is that correct? Can you park?
They park whatever. Some parallel. I don't know if they do angled or not. I've been back there once, and I noticed there were some parallel, but there were fewer tenants when I was back there. There are more now. As of last month, there were 3 new tenants that have signed leases. And under the leases, they're required to park back there. And the lender has approved that form lease. So I don't want to jeopardize anything. Plus, the fact remains, it's been like this for 32 years. The parking is what it is.
And Cindy, you're okay with them parking horizontal?
The problem that staff has is that with angled parking, there is a specific measurement that you have to have in order to accommodate backing in and out and traffic passing and so forth. I understand that the parking ability has been back there. I definitely don't know what happened in 1986. According to the codes for today, there would not be parking permitted back there. There is not enough space for angled parking, and there's not enough space for the parking plus all of the dumpsters that are back there. There's a fire hydrant back there. There are meters that are back off of the wall in that travel area. So there's just a lot of conflict that could happen. The other thing is, I was out to the site several times. All of the times that I was out there, there may be 3 or 4 people parking in the back, and they were parking parallel. Also, all of the spaces that are currently striped, and those spaces back there are not striped. The spaces that are striped in the front along Cornwell are not being utilized. There's a large bank of parking on the south side that is not being utilized. Those are all areas employees could park and still have available those spaces closest to the uses for the patrons. So it's not that we are trying to throw a monkey wrench in their lease, but again, the lender is not, as far as I know, not a party to planning codes. The lease was not developed with such, with the current codes in mind, and staff really does have a problem with trying to get 27 angled parking spaces back there and not have a concern about safety.
And your concern is getting a fire truck back there with 27 cars parked there?
Fire trucks, trash trucks, all of those that Mr. Collins has said, like I said, people aren't parking angled back there right now. They're all parking parallel. And I would assume, although I don't know for a fact, but I would assume they don't want their cars hit by these large vehicles. So that's why they park as close to the building as possible. There really is no give back there. You've got a large retaining wall, so there's, no backing over the curb.
Yeah, I parked back there yesterday in my Expedition at an angle in between what used to be two lines. I could see some of the lines, and there was roughly about 17 feet from the corner of my truck to the wall. That wasn't a whole lot of space. So I see what you're saying.
Well, but that's enough space to get a big vehicle through. Yeah. Garbage trucks go back there once a week, whatever.
They do, yeah. But they do go back there, but on garbage day and every other day, the people, I went back there day after day, and they are always parking
Parallel to the building.
And I think it's just smart for them to do that.
How many spaces are there, Cindy? Do you know if they park parallel to the building? Any idea, Mitch?
No.
Well, if there's 27 back there angled, you would be roughly half.
Do you have the length of the building? It would be roughly 9 feet. Standard parking space, 9 by 18, so 18 feet actually, for each space. So whatever that total length for the building is, plus mine.
It's about 20.
About 20.
So we're arguing over seven parking spaces here?
I mean, if they were willing to go with the angled parking, and what I've tried to explain, and maybe I'm not explaining myself fully, but the 137 are all of the spaces that are either out in front of the structure, to the side of the structure, that are readily accessible. Those, easily we can put into a total. Because there were very few employees that were parking back there in the back of the building, and because of the amount of open parking, parking that was not being utilized, that's where we came up with it's not my brain just fritzed necessary for all of the parking that he is talking about.
Hey, one other thing too is that my understanding then is with the dumpsters there, and you have parallel parking with the dumpsters there and parallel parking, that's enough for the trucks to get through.
Yeah.
So you could parallel park on both sides then between the dumpsters. Okay.
The dumpsters typically are up against that retaining wall, kept up against the retaining wall.
Is there any way to maybe move those dumpsters to the southeast side?
I think it's got to be behind
The people would want to walk out their back door and drop the trash, and
I
then the
understand
dump
that,
trucks
but-
pick them up. They have to be in line with them to pick them up, do they not?
Yes.
They can't come and make a turn and pick them up. They have, so you can't park on both sides of the wall like you suggested. You see what I mean?
By consolidating the dumpsters, I think they would lose more parking spaces if they were all on the south side.
Yeah, the way it is now is actually, I mean, things get to be the way they are because it's the most, I think the way it's set up now is worked out over 30 years.
I was just trying to come up with 7 more spaces.
Yeah.
And you know, that shopping center now, it's only, I'm guessing, it's probably 2/3 leased now. That
Or the
vacant-
Harvest Bank.
Yeah, that's a big hole in this shopping center. But I'm at least 2/3 of it is, no, I say minimum of two. Yeah, at least 2/3 would be the maximum that probably that it's leased now. At 9,600 square feet, that's a big space. And now once it gets occupied, more parking is going to be needed than what's there right now. And I know that's going to be a fact. So you're talking about, you know, if you're talking about right now, you're probably right. 137 is sufficient. But I'm talking about once this shopping center is fully leased out, and or if the bank building's sold even, in that instance, it's going to be a different story. And so parking's going to be needed.
There is a fail-safe that we agreed to put in the PUD, that uses would be scrutinized when they came in for their COs to make sure that intense uses that would require a lot of parking, we would look very closely at those and at the existing parking at the time to keep the situation from happening where you have, 100% leased but not enough parking. And that could happen whether the parking in the back is counted or not, if you get intense uses in there that just simply use up more parking than is available.
I go by that place a lot, and there's parking right up next to Cornwell that's never seen a car parked there, I don't think.
But
Or on Bass.
yeah, but it's at 32,600 feet. If it's all retail, then that requires 163 spaces. Y'all know that. And there's not that many there if we can't count the parking behind the building.
Well, item 12 here, section 9.9, additional parallel parking shall be permitted in the rear of the center as long as it does not obstruct the travel or operations of emergency vehicles, trash truck, or utility maintenance. So, parallel parking will be in this recommendation by the staff, be able to be used.
Why not include it then in the total number of spaces?
Because we don't know how many parallel parking, it depends on how long, how your cars are.
Well, 18 feet per car, and so have to have some maneuvering space, so that's not that hard to figure out.
I don't see a problem myself, I'm sorry. If we're worried about 7 parking spaces, I can't
it's
think of a
20.
time when they would be 100% full. I've been going to the hospital, Baptist Hospital, every day since the January 1st, and they have 2 parking lots, and this one that's nearest, it's got 3 rows of parking, and sometimes they're 100% full, and the time I pull around once, there's a space. Retail's the same way, people come and go. I just can't see it being a big problem. I don't know. You have any other comments, or do we want to discuss this some more?
So I was trying to understand, so we're trying to get to 167 spaces. Is that right?
163 is what's needed.
I just have it written here as 167.
And we're at 156?
She wants to count only, or the staff wants to count only 137 out of the 163 that are on site.
So section 12, so 12, section 9.9, the PUD shall have 136 spaces, including 7 handicap spaces. So 136, but that doesn't count the 20 in the back.
Correct.
Even though there is, can we figure out how many that really is in parallel and then add that? Or you don't want to add that?
Would they have to stripe them, Mitchell?
If we put them in the PUD, they'll have to be striped.
How's that?
Anyway,
There's 20.
And so that would get you up to 157. Or 156, whatever it is.
156.
156.
Well, I think we could live with that, can't we? Yeah, we'll do the parallel parking at the back, and we'll get with staff, we'll calculate how many spaces we can get back there.
It's got to go to the council also, Mitchell.
Yes,
Could you have that calculated by the time it gets to council?
yes, we can calculate that, go out and look at it, probably do it as a group. I know Jim Ferguson, he'd probably go with me.
Okay. We'll make a motion. Well, I don't know what the motion will be just yet, but we'll try to incorporate that number
That's fine.
before the city council.
That's good.
Is that good? Okay.
Okay? All right, you want to read it? Let's get this thing over with.
All right, well, before we read it, before we read it, we gotta, so it'll be number 2. A is we should probably add in some language about that. So prior to the city council meeting, staff will meet with
The applicant
With the
as
applicant.
to the number of parallel parking spaces in the rear, and add it to the,
The total amount of parking.
at that time, before it goes to council.
all right.
Okay.
Can do.
Can do.
Going to read it, is that all right?
Yeah, because you don't want to read down scratches. I just wrote down. All right. In the case of the application for a PUD submitted by Collins Law Firm on behalf of Plaza Shops LLC, we have read the staff report and received testimony at the public hearing. We find ourselves in agreement with all plans and attachments cited in the staff report dated March 5th, 2018. I move that this item be recommended for approval to the City Council with the following additional conditions. Condition 1, staff requested revisions noted as numbers 7 through 17 shall be incorporated into the document with the exception of, no, it's not number, prior to the document being forwarded for City Council, sorry, with the exception of number 12, which we will amend later. Okay. The following additional revisions requested at this planning commission shall be incorporated in the PUD document. These revisions are as follows. Prior to the City Council meeting, staff shall meet with the applicant to outline the number of parallel parking spaces that are available behind the building, and those shall be added to the total number of parking spaces in the PUD.
Now, you did not incorporate the agreement that Cindy and I reached on some specific items.
Those will be, there are some revisions that were noted in the staff report that Mr. Collins has already taken care of, and we will just
Yeah, and then we
note those as having already been completed. There were a
Yeah.
couple of items that you and I had spoken about prior to this hearing that still need to be addressed, so we'll just leave it as is now, but knowing that the majority of those revisions have been taken care of.
Okay.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Second.
Chairman Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatley,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Oh, I got item 6 to go, don't
Yep.
I? All right, item 6, to hear a request by Bill Collins on behalf of J.F. Ferguson Plaza Shops for a final plat located at 915 Cornwall, Yukon, Oklahoma, part of Block C, Yukon Hills Addition, second section, in addition to Yukon, Canadian County, and then meets and bounds. So, Judge, can we do this, since we made that kind of a final plat, since we're not quite sure what we're doing a final plat on?
I think you
can if you make it conditional upon those conditions you set forth already.
Conditioned upon the city council accepting our recommendations or something?
Well, as I understood the motion, it was it's conditioned upon striping the backside, parallel parking, and those parking spaces be added into the total.
Correct.
And you don't know what that number is yet. Staff's gotta go out and calculate those numbers. So I think as long as you condition it upon that, upon the staff being able to tell the council it's this many total, then I think you can do it.
Okay. All right, do we have any, do we want to discuss this in there? Can we just go right to it? Someone want to give us a motion?
Mr. Collins, you good with that?
Do you have any discussion on that with what he said?
Well, I think what
It's-
he just said addressed the zoning issue, which was the PUD, and now we're on the plat now.
But if we don't know what the plat is, because we don't know where the stripes are going to be allowed in the front or the back.
As a point of clarification, the plat, regardless of how many parking spaces that are determined for the PUD, the boundaries of the plat are going to be exactly the same.
I don't see anything in here that
Yeah,
talks
the-
about parking.
The plat is
Yeah.
not, the parking spaces aren't shown on final plats.
So it doesn't matter then.
No, it doesn't.
All right. Thanks for that clarification. Okay, well, would one of y'all like to read the final plat?
Sure. In the case of the application for a final plat submitted by Collins Law Firm on behalf of Plaza Shops LLC, we have read the staff report and received testimony at the public hearing. We find ourselves in agreement with all plans and attachments cited in the staff report dated March 6, 2018. I move that this item be recommended for city council.
And item one?
Item one, following condition, the signature shall be placed on a separate page than the plat, and the plat rotated so that the scale can be increased, so that the notes can be read when the plat is duplicated.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Hatley?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Any further items to come before business tonight, Mitchell?
Mr. Chairman, no new business tonight.
We have any meetings coming up on our sign ordinance that we've been working on or anything?
Well, it's one of the things we want to talk to you in open discussion. We wanted to see if maybe the next one have a work session to talk about communication towers and small cell. We'd probably need a little more than an hour to do those conversations, so that's one of the things we probably want to poll you later and see when you'd like to do that, because I'm sure it's going to be a couple-hour deal because it's all brand new and there's a lot to it.
Oh, wow. Okay, no new business, open discussion. Does anybody have, we want to have it on a Monday night, just have a dinner deal?
Yes, we'd do a dinner deal. The question is, like I said, I think we need at least an hour and a half or 2 hours minimum. I don't want to drag you on forever,
So
but
are we going to try to do it at two separate meetings?
I didn't know if you want to come in
Or try to
like
get
at
here by 5?
5 and then
I can't do 5.
Yeah.
I can bring the boys with me, I guess.
Well, that's one of the things we need to discuss. And maybe what I need to do is get it to you. That way you can review it. And maybe we need to take a chunk, the communication towers by itself, and then the small cell by itself, because they're different. Well, it's interesting to say the least.
Could we do the cell after the meeting? Could we do part before and part after?
Well, it's whatever.
Why don't we do it like he
want to
suggested,
like
just
this?
break it up and do one meeting, and then if we want to schedule a next Monday night or
Work session.
a work session.
Yeah.
we can
Okay.
do it.
It's probably easier to take them as 2 separate chunks, but they're similar type uses, but
Or-
the same.
Or we could schedule just a work session without the meeting afterwards. We start at 6, get it all done in one
And
meeting.
just do a work session.
This,
So you're talking about an off Monday night?
Yeah.
Who meets in here opposite Monday nights?
we'll have to look and see because the traffic commission meets, and I don't remember if they meet on a Monday or Thursday, so we just need to look.
I'll send out an email and we can talk that way too.
Would we disturb them back there? We might. You gonna get louder?
Traffic commission uses out back in the
Oh,
day.
okay.
So,
Yeah, well, that's, you know, if possible, just, I think we're all pretty much in agreement that it would be hard to
Do it prior to a meeting.
okay.
get it all done prior to the meeting.
Let us go, please.
No.
We'll be there.
All righty, then, this meeting is adjourned.